What is good, YouTube? So I know the thumbnail is a little bit OTT, but I needed to grab your attention in order to get you to click on the video. So if you're into ball pythons or you're one of the breeders, then you may want to stick around just to see this potentially brand new gene that will become on the market in maybe 2025. Now, it's not exclusive to me. There is 3 other people that has this gene. 2 I sold to, and 1 is a friend of mine that's just so happened to fall on this gene too. And it originates here in the UK as best as I know. Now, there was an American that hollered at me and said he has something similar, and I've looked over his animals, and yes, there's definitely some similarities between what I'm working with and what he's working with. However, I do think they are different. Now, if they are the same, just like banana, coral glow, sugar, calico, butter, lesser, etc., etc., it really doesn't matter, and we can go in our own directions, give it our own names, and just, you know, see what happens in the future. So on today's video, I'd like to show off a couple of the animals, just to bring a little bit of awareness to this gene. And it is not called New Gene, it's just a nickname for it. I had another American reach out and say, oh, please don't call that New Gene, I've got a gene that's going to be called New Gene. And I explained it's actually a terrible name because one day it won't be a new gene, it'll be an old gene, so a new gene wouldn't really work. And it's not very unique, it's not very impressive, but for now we're just going to reference it as New Gene. So without further ado, guys, let's see these pretty cool animals. Right guys, so here's the very first animal I want to show off. Now, this is a New Gene pastel cinnamon het clown, or it's a super New Gene pastel cinnamon het clown. Now, the reason I'm not quite sure is because the mother to this snake is also pastel cinnamon het clown, and this one is substantially different. Now, what I don't know is if this gene is a recessive gene or incomplete dominant, stroke dominant, and it's going to take a little bit of time to work that out. Now, one characteristic with all the snakes is it's exceptionally bitey, unfortunately. It's very reactive. But more characteristics, looking at, you know, how the gene works, is in some cases it really stretches out the pattern. It brings this like belly fade in, it fades to a darker colour, and it has a very like washed out dorsal stripe. Not in all cases, but in some, particularly when mixed with cinnamon. It could even be a case where maybe it's allelic to cinnamon, I don't know. But it brings almost like a bit of a puzzle pattern. It's quite unique. I've never really seen too much like it. But I'm very excited for the future as to what this gene can bring because of particularly the next animal, the brother to this one. Now, during this video, I'll drop onto screen a picture of the clutch this snake and her brother came from, and you'll see, oops, she's grabbed the mic stand, not the mic stand, the camera stand. You'll see he was very silver and very almost xanthic looking, but the ones with pastel in was more so xanthic looking. So that's the first one. And here's the second. So this is the brother to the one we've just seen. So this, to the best of my knowledge, is Cinnamon New Gene Clown, Super New Gene Cinnamon Clown, or the recessive display of the gene. So it's very, you know, different to what I kind of imagined would pop out. Now, both sides, obviously, of the pairing to create this snake had the New Gene. Both mother and father had it, so it is a possible either full visual of a recessive trait or it's the super. Now, this animal hasn't grown up as well as it should have because it was a bad feeder, so was its brother. You can see they're quite a bit smaller than the sister, but these were just so aggressive. They would just basically savage anything I fed them, but not go on to eat it, which was a real shame. But now I have them feeding well, and the trick I learned is they prefer quite large meals, but a little bit less often, and then they seem to feed. Anything small or more appropriately sized, they won't take, which is interesting. But anyway, so if we zoom right into this one, we see a very faded out belly pattern, and it fades into some yellow pixelation, and into the sort of brown and granity look. It has a like the washed out dorsal stripe, and it's very like different to pretty much everything we see now. So now the focus would be what genes would complement this gene to make it look as good as possible. And that's basically the challenge from this point on. This coming season, I'll hopefully have this male and his brother breeding, and I'm going to plug him into lots of different clown combinations to see if I basically pop hets out or if I pop visuals out, and then that will basically give me my answer. But I do wonder if some of the het forms are quite visual, like some het puzzles, some het pieds. You know, pieds have them, het pieds have them train track markers, sometimes ringers, and het puzzles, you can quite often pick het puzzles out of a group. So I'm going to approach it with an open mind and kind of try my absolute best to get it right. So now I want to show you a Wookiee combo. It's very different, but it gives off some characteristics of what the either single form or the het form looks like. So this one is a new gene, Wookiee, I believe yellow belly. It could have red stripe, although I'm not seeing anything to do with red stripe in this animal. So for now at least, I'm going to mark it up as a new gene or het new gene, Wookiee yellow belly, 100% het clown. Now, at first look, you'd just think it was a really nice Wookiee yellow belly combo. But then when you look a little bit deeper and you see it has the really washed out belly and it fades into the darker scales, which in clown it fades into yellow. You get these yellow patches on the belly. Now, I don't necessarily think that's exclusive to this new gene, but you don't see that all too often. And a big telltale sign is the tail. This gene seems to really display stuff in the tail. Now, of a lot of the either single gene or het forms I have, it's going to nail me because it's so bitey, and this one hasn't had time to calm itself down. You get this interruption of pattern. It quite often is yellow and white, and it does display ringers quite often. Now, this one doesn't have a perfect ringer of any sort, but it has that real telltale sign. It's almost like popcorn and like bubbles. It's really interesting how so many of them have this, and that's what we're seeing through my clutches and also a friend of mine, JVK. So Jay's also working with this, and he's excited. He created a phenomenal animal with spot nosing. It's a clown combo, and it grabbed a lot of attention. Now, we both feel the time is right to start displaying these snakes and hopefully, you know, generating some awareness, and then some of the community can join us in this project and help us work out what really makes this combo stand out. But you see, this one has similar characteristics to the first one, but so does Wookiee, so you've got to take that with a pinch of salt. But you get all these little bubbles of pattern, you get the fade, you know, you can either say it fades to white or fades to black, depending on which way you look at it. It's got 3 sections to the snake, like this gene seems to have. It has the base, which is very faded. It has the bubbles, then it has the dorsal. And I am, without question, sure this is either the single form new gene or it's het. So guys, let me know what you think. I genuinely would like just nice, honest opinions. No hate, no silliness, because some people are going to love this gene, whether it's the next best thing or the next worst thing. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. The good thing about this industry is we don't all have to love and like the same thing, you know. And that's what makes the industry interesting, because we all get to work with what we like, creating our own living art and push our projects in the directions we want to go. Right guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it 2 thumbs down. If you want to, let me know what you think of the gene. What direction would you take it in? And yeah, I'll hopefully, fingers crossed, see you next week. Cheers!